As many of you know, we have been hearing a lot from Alicia Andrews and her defense team specifically now that the trial is over. They've given us some insight into what they were thinking during the trial, some of the roadblocks that they ran into, and even talking about some of their strategies when it came to using YouTube comments to adjust how they were moving in court. Yes, you heard that right, and I would love to hear y'all's thoughts on that. So either way, we're going to get back into the video here, and this was posted and this interview was done by Taylor Umbridge. I'll leave a link to the full video down below in the description of this video and in the comments so y'all can go check it out and support the full video here. But I want to point out another instance in this interview I thought was interesting, and I'll give my thoughts on it, and I'll hear your reaction as well. Check this out.
I think everybody has been in some, proximity of a gang member or just outside and in the streets, and the fact that her proximity to folks put her on trial, it hurt me in a sense, and it hurt me that our people couldn't look at it and even look at it in a non-biased way to attempt to follow the evidence. It was immediately, oh, when I was 17, I wouldn't have gotten in the car with anybody. I would have asked questions. I would have done this. I would have done that. So for me, that was the thing that really ticked me off. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
So I agree with you. And I think all of us are, I don't even want to say a bad decision, right? But all of us are one decision away from ending up in, the worst position of our lives. And it may not be a bad decision. It may be a questionable decision. It may be a decision that you didn't even realize what the consequences could be.
That's fair.
But we are all one decision away from the circumstances of our lives being completely different, right? But I want to challenge you a little bit, Taylor, because somehow, right? I watched the YSL trial every day of it. And somehow, some of the same people that criticized Alicia must have been guilty. She had to have known because she was there. Some of those same people were able to pick apart the evidence in the YSL trial and say, hey, maybe some of them have committed some of these crimes, but I don't think the state can prove it. But that wasn't the way the conversations were going about this trial. And
well, they were probably watching the wrong channel. Y'all need to come over to the #1 objective channel on YouTube. You got to come over to the ClassE YouTube channel, because over here, since day one, we believed Alicia Andrews was innocent until proven guilty. We went through the trial, we saw the evidence, and we believed, the jury believed, that there was a substantial amount of evidence that showed and pointed to Alicia Andrews' involvement. From her history of talking about Fulio, to her relationship with Isaiah, to her involvement with what was going behind the scenes, her being there, her allowing him to use their cell phone, being a known gang member. That alone, again, you have to be held accountable for it, because you got to be careful with how you move. So should she have been on trial for second-degree murder, manslaughter? Y'all can argue that with the justice system. In this case, I think maybe they're looking at the wrong channels, because we watched the evidence play out throughout this trial, and I think we came to the same conclusion here as the jury did, and that she was guilty. It is what it is.
And I'm going to venture out and say that there's a lot of anti-blackness at the root of that. And who the lawyers were and who the judge was mattered. And I think that's why the conversations went the way they did about Alicia.
No, I disagree with that. YSL was completely and totally different than Alicia Andrews. If this had been a RICO case, maybe this would have been different. We weren't saying Young Thug was completely innocent of everything he ever did ever. We knew, and we talked about on this channel, they were going to get him for the drugs. They were going to get him for the guns. That was a no-brainer. But the entire RICO conspiracy and the way that it was prosecuted, it does factor in here. And I think that was the big difference between the YSL and between Alicia Andrews. It's not that we were saying, okay, there's no evidence to show that Young Thug was messing with drugs, he was messing with guns, and he was around some of the wrong people, right? We knew that. But to show that Young Thug was involved in Donovan Thomas's killing, there was literally nothing there that showed Young Thug was involved in the murder of Donovan Thomas at all. I mean, he wasn't planning anything. He wasn't trying to do a meetup. There weren't phone calls that were taking place. A lot of the evidence didn't add up, and it didn't point to Young Thug being the orchestrator of this shooting. And then you even look at some of the people who were around Young Thug. It seemed like they had more of an issue with Donovan Thomas than Young Thug did. Young Thug, it just doesn't add up. Alicia Andrews, in this instance, you had 1, 2, 3 people that she was directly connected to, and she was a part of, and she was there when it went down. There's just too much. There's too much there.
Because I've seen firsthand some of the same people that were watching this YSL trial and very, very understanding, and the judge is wrong and the lawyers are right, somehow now think that just because a judge says something, that means the judge is right and the lawyers are wrong. And I find that very interesting because the racial dynamics are very different now. So I would challenge for those people to look deep inside and figure out why that is. But more importantly, I would challenge anybody to argue why they think Alicia could have committed this crime or, known anything, and they can't say because she was there. Like that can't be a part of your argument.
Yeah,
and I don't think anybody.
Okay, well, let's take helping book an Airbnb. She participated in planning the trips. She was in communication with Isaiah. She was letting Isaiah use her phone to conduct business. There was we know, and Alicia Andrews admitted that she was with a known gang member. She knew what he was involved in. She knew what he was participating in. And she allowed and encouraged and participated in that type of behavior. It's not really that complicated, to be honest. I don't know. What are we missing?
It says it. Like, that's literally one of the rules. Mere presence is not enough. Like, that is the rule. So you have to prove it.
What about the cell phone?
Sorry, that's just lawsuit coming out of me. I learned a little.
But yeah. And I don't think you can. If you're not allowed to say because she was there, because that's at the end of every thought. She must have known because she was there. And if you can't argue because she was there, there is literally no evidence that she knew, and that's because she didn't.
Yeah, and again, I don't even think that it's a big deal that she was there. I honestly wouldn't care that she was there. I didn't even factor in the fact that she was there as much into my decision. It was everything surrounding that and leading up to that. Nobody's saying Alicia Andrews pulled the trigger, but then she dang sure knew there was a trigger going to be pulled. I think the evidence showed that.
And that's just what it is. So, yeah.
Interesting.
All right, so let's go back into the courtroom, right? Because there were a lot of challenges that you guys faced when it came to just sidebars or just trying to question your witnesses. How did you manage just like the emotional, because you guys believe in our innocence, right? So I know it had to be emotional in that moment when you're wanting to get this question out or you're wanting to bring this evidence in. How do you manage that, like on the fly in front of the cameras?
Jeremy does a much better job at it than me.
You want to take it or you want me to take it?
I'll take it. I'm not going to say I don't manage it well. I believe that I remain professional, right? But I am a passionate advocate. And I don't believe in not speaking up when something is wrong. I don't like disrespect or anything that is at a negative towards me to go unchecked. But there's a balance there, right? Because the way that I speak outside of the presence of the jury is very different than in front of the jury, right? Because again, and not all lawyers have this burden, but we have the burden of being Black attorneys, and I have the burden of being a Black woman attorney. And so I have to manage the way that I interact in the courtroom in front of the jury. Outside of the jury still, but it's very different. It's very frustrating, right? To know that your position is the correct one, to have case law to back it up, to have the Constitution to back it up, to have common sense back it up, and still yet somehow the people on the opposite side of you disagree, and the person who has the control over what is put in front of the jury disagrees. It's very frustrating. And I think even the best lawyers, sometimes it may show on your face, but all you can do is move forward. That's all. That's the only choice you have, because as frustrating as it is, Alicia's life is still in our hands, so we have to move forward and adjust and hope that if this is something that's in front of the jury, that they question it as well. Because don't think the jurors don't see, like, why can't we hear the answer to that question? They don't see some of the arguments that are made from the state, from the defense, and even the judge. The jurors see that too, and they're interested.
Yeah, I want to know what y'all think about this, because again, we always cover these trials as if we would be on the jury and as prospective jurors, and some of us, including myself, have been jurors in the past. When you look at this case against Alicia Andrews, let me know in the comments in the chat if you thought the jury got it right and they found her guilty. Let me know why you think she was guilty. If you think they got it wrong and that the state did not prove that she was guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, I want you all to point out and let me know in the comments in the chat why you think that's the case. Let me know. Let me know how